Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to the Daily Red, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday, the 1st of October. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a pretty cold and dark Edinburgh. I mean, freak me, we're into October already. We're into the burrs well and truly. That Xmas won't be too far away, but before then, there is a million Liverpool fixtures, a million things to talk about. And we'll get into this one, ladies and gents. So, where are we going to start first of all? Well, Bologna's coming up. And funnily enough, the time's now about 12:15 UK time in the afternoon. And Liverpool are training as we speak. So, there's a couple of updates I want to bring you. Some good, some not so good at the same time. I have to say that honestly. So the good news, young Train Ione's in training with the team, which is good to see. So you wonder if he could be involved. Darwin Núñez is back in training with the team. So it looks like he's over his virus, which is good news. And Andy Robbo is in training there with the team in the video as well, which is good because obviously you got that knock after the Wolves game. Arne Slot talked about it, didn't he? And said, which should be okay, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's the good side. Now, there's a mix. There's a bit of a bad, a bit of a, I don't know. We'll probably have to wait till Arne Slot's press conference, which is at 3 o'clock. You will have a player as well because it's you wait for Champions League. So in Europe, it's a player followed by the boss as well. But we'll have to see who that is. Get to the bad news, Dave. I get it. Diogo Jota is not in training with the team. So there's a few articles or a few suggestions going around that he has picked up a knock to his foot against Wolves. A bit I'm reading doesn't say it or suggest it's not too bad. So we'll have to see what the reality is in that situation when we get an update from Arne Slot at 3 o'clock. The other thing to call out, Federico Chiesa is not in training, or if he's in training, he's not doing it with the first team right now. So again, we have to wait till 3 o'clock, but we are after an update from Arne Slot on those two players. Yeah, it would be a bad time, wouldn't it, to get an injury? Excuse me. So yeah, we'll wait for that. And I mentioned the boss, didn't I? We'll get to that shortly. May have seen a few announcements today, but Bologna, just a bit of a build-up for this game, because that's what obviously this afternoon we'll focus on. This may sound a bit, I don't know, too overconfident, but when you look at Bologna, ladies and gents, they are 13th in Serie A. They have lost their three key people from last season in Xerxes at United. Calafiori, as we know, is at Arsenal. And Motta, their manager, Thiago Motta, the head coach, has gone to Juventus. So it's definitely not the same team. They're not a bad team to have drawn at all. I said they were 13th. They've only won one game out the six. In fact, drawn 4, lost once. The draw specialist, you'd almost argue a little bit. But they've scored 7 goals. Not too many in 6 games, although their young forward Castro is definitely one to keep an eye on. I'll be talking about him a bit more in post-conference presser. And they've shipped 9 in the league as well. So for me, and I'll give my full team, this would be a game to very much look at rotation. I have to be honest on that, especially with Crystal Palace. And everyone's going to say I'm jumping the gun here, but with Crystal Palace coming up at 12:30 on the Saturday, I would not be surprised to see 4, maybe 5 changes for Arne Slot, especially if Jota's out. Well, that's one straight away, isn't it, in that regard? So, yeah, we will have to see on this, ladies and gents. But there we go. A couple of things to keep an eye on from the training and ahead of the 3 o'clock press conference for a player and Arne Slot. I mentioned the boss, didn't I? The boss is Anfield. Not that big, beautiful Dutch guy we love, but the other boss. And put it this way, when he's playing at Anfield, the floodlights will on, so we will not be dancing in the dark. You having that? The boss, dancing in the dark. If you've not got it by now, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are coming to Anfield this summer, ladies and gents. They joined in Dua Lipa, aren't they? And Billy Joel was the other one that was announced the other day. So this is good. I'm not going to try and argue half the female population. But Taylor Swift at Anfield didn't really sort of float my boat at all. But Springsteen and the E Street Band, absolutely. So Wednesday, the 4th of June, 2025, the end of the season, Springsteen, when the E Street Band will be playing Anfield. And if you are interested, tickets will go on general sale at 10 a.m. on Friday, October the 11th. So 10 days from now, and pre-sale information will be announced. So keep your eyes on that. Very, very much one that I will be looking at and going to. Yeah, you'll see if you will too. Other things to call out on the Daily Red, ladies and gentlemen. There's a Dominic Szoboszlai article in The Athletic. Funny enough, speaking of a player that's born to run, eh? No, I'll stop it now. But yeah, there's an interesting one, and it's not about whether you agree with it. I'd say it's worth a read because it calls out certain points that may prompt debate. You may agree, disagree with it, but it's always worth, a read of certain analysis pieces, whether you agree with it. It's just Andy Jones in The Athletic. So he quotes bits that, just to bring you a bit from this, he quotes bits around the actual statements that Slot's made around him needing to score more, and talks about, how he's laid on an assist for Salah at Old Trafford, how he got a good goal at the San Siro. So, the positive elements, and that's part of it. He does talk it in positive terms. It does actually mention as well his teammates finishing on a different day. That could have got him more assists, that he just get in good positions. It's that zone 14, isn't it? The up lads will talk about. It's just, I think this key focus is sometimes his decision making, and it does talk a bit about that in the article. So it's well worth a read about how it could be better. It's also just a reminder of what Szoboszlai said at the start of the season, ladies and gents. You do forget this, where he said, when he's talking to Hungarian TV, I set the bar even higher. So, than 10 goals and 10 assists, I told myself 25. It doesn't matter how many goals or assists, I want 25. It's a big target, and it's a big way for Szoboszlai to get that. It's interesting that I'd forgotten that, I'll be honest, that he set those stats. There is a bit in defence, and it is defence, I should say that. I do just want to call out from this article, I think it's fair to say. He says, and I'm reading here from it, if you look at the data, he can't be accused of failing to create, because only Salah with 14 and Trent with 11 have created more chances from open play than him. He's got 10. And also it talks about in the article how only 5 other players have created more chances than him, as in Kulusevski with 16, Cole Palmer with 15, Bernardo Silva 13, Morgan Gibbs-White 11, and Jack Grealish 11. So there's that. I mean, it's an interesting piece. I don't agree with all of it, but I agree with the focus of some of it. In my takeaways from it were, does a lot for the team. We know he's running, he's off the work, but also on the ball. We shouldn't just dismiss it. He has created chances. It's a read. I won't give the whole article away and spoil it for you, but my recommendation, ladies and gents, definitely have a read of that one on Dominic Szoboszlai. There's a lot to consider. I think he is the hot talking point right now. And it's interesting. I'm seeing a real division, which is typical with Liverpool fan base, isn't it? People who are defending him saying, no, he's been brilliant. He's the new whipping boy, like Jordan Henderson or whoever it is. I've seen some say, no, it's on the decision. Some saying he's, I see some quite extreme reactions saying he's just not up to it as well. I think that's fair to say. In different places. And yes, social media is an echo chamber, ladies and gents, but you will all have your own take on Dominic Szoboszlai. I would just suggest on today's Daily Red, it's worth a read of that Athletic article. Sticking on the Athletic, a player that a few of the aggregators have got us linked with now, based on this one specifically, and I'm probably butchering his name, so my apologies. Mario Cortania, I think it's pronounced. Apologies for the Athletic. References Palmeiras centre-back Vitor Rice. So he mentions that Arsenal and Real Madrid are among a host of clubs that inquired. All the big names are there. Liverpool naturally mentioned, and quite a few of the aggregators were in that. Chelsea, Barcelona. So a couple of key details about this one. It does say the centre-back renewed his contract this summer until December 2028. Where his previous deal had expired in February 2027. His termination, the release clause, is 100 million euros. Interesting. Palmeiras haven't set an asking price. His intention to keep him until after the 2025 World Cup. I did a piece on this for Anfield Index. I did a bit of research and contacted a few South American experts in that regard to sort of get the download. Very much flag him as, it's not necessarily about his physicality, but very much a leader in all the young Brazilian sides internationally, the youth groups, who's captain all of those. So big shout out to Tom Robinson, who gave us a bit. I know he comes on a lot of our podcasts. He's our South American expert to say, yeah, he looks the part. He was a step above for the Brazilian under-17s and the type of centre-back that all the top clubs like. There's not much expectation in South America. He'll be in Brazil too much longer. Just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, that does not mean for 1 single second I am suggesting that he will be at Liverpool, and with that price tag, it's hard to see it. But yeah, it is interesting. So a couple of other things that Tom and people have mentioned. You think of Luis Guilherme, Hendrick, Willian Esteval, who's off to Chelsea. Palmeiras have sold a lot recently for big money, so they're not in a massive rush, and it will be top dollar if anyone does go for the player at all. But they also mentioned with Vitor Rice that they could even hang on to a bit longer. They got I think it's pronounced the Sudamericano under 20 at the start of the year coming. So he could even be snapped up. And like Esteban, you mentioned, could it be his loan back for a year to Palmeiras possibly? We'll have to see. But just a good name to be aware of. Vitor Rice. Does that mean he will be a Liverpool player? No, absolutely not. However, we're mentioned as being interested in him. So I just wanted to give you why I had it, ladies and gents, the latest on him. Also to mention, we're in October. Well, mate, the year is just disappearing, isn't it? Christmas time to think about soon. But what does our fixture list look like in October? Because it was a good reminder. The official account tweeted that out earlier, didn't they? So what did they say? They said, well, tomorrow night, October the 2nd, Bologna at home. Followed by October the 5th, the Saturday, the early kickoff, the 12:30 away at Crystal Palace. The last one before that international break. International breaks, ladies and gents. We hate them anyway, but we think of that Forest game, don't we, straight after, and the travelling of miles and all that type of things. We do not like that whatsoever. When we come back from the international break, it's a Super Sunday, October the 20th. Chelsea at home, the 4:30 kickoff, so maybe the fans will help with that. So, have any sort of Forest doldrums at all, we will have to see. We then go to the 23rd of October, so the Wednesday. So that becomes Red Bull Leipzig away. We then go away again on Sunday, October the 27th to Arsenal. So there are 3 Premier League games in this month. Palace away, Chelsea home, Arsenal away. Not the easiest, are they? And then we finish the month with the Carabao of October the 30th, the Wednesday night with a 7:30 kickoff at the Amex against Brighton. We talked about this on Red Alert, funnily enough, which is out now. When we reviewed September, you also look at October. There's no doubting how much tougher the fixture list starts to become, and it even builds from there into November. I know I'm jumping ahead now, but it does get progressively tougher. If we're honest, as good as September was, and it's right to say that, there's a lot of positives, you would have hand-picked those fixtures largely. Now you're getting a few tough ones, and you look at that Arsenal away in the month and that week that comes after the international break. It'll be a test, won't it, for Arne Slot? Has he almost learned the lessons? Was that Forest just a blip? Or if we struggle again after international, what does that tell us? So, yeah, very interesting what's coming up, ladies and gents. And I mentioned Arne Slot a couple of times here, haven't I, that he, with another player, will be facing the media at 3:00, probably just after it'll be, funnily enough, won't it? So get me bifocals on for this one, because there's a lot of detail. The reason I want to speak about Arne Slot is he's done, I think it looks like an interview for UEFA and their official site, talking about him And it's always good to get more of an insight into this boss, isn't it? And how he's thinking. So he was asked, funnily enough, about, his father, his career, his history, and he said a few interesting things. He said, if you ask my father now, he would say he does everything different as a manager as to how he was as a player. I always make the same joke. I always say I was not so fast. Some people call me slow, and that helped me make maybe a bit with game insight. I needed the time to get to a certain level because individually I couldn't go around 3 players. I always needed my teammates where I could play them my passes. Interesting. A bit of a similar feel again, wasn't it, to Jurgen Klopp, who always admitted he was a limited player as a forward. So he took certain things forward from his style, and almost Slot admitting similarly that, playing at the top level, but limited as a player helped him understand a few things that way as well. It is a really sort of, I would say personally, a fascinating interview. And he does mention a little bit about Pep, Barcelona as well. But I'll give you a little bit of when he talked about us. He said, if you work at a club like Liverpool, I think trophies, I wouldn't say they're expected, but in the last 9 years that Jurgen worked here, he won a lot of trophies with a certain playing style. So if you work at clubs like this, you always have to aim for winning something. And that's not going to be easy because you're in a competition with a lot of good teams. But that's a good thing because if it's easy, then you don't value the prize you win a month. Interesting, isn't it? Because I've seen a few saying that almost at the start of the season, and I got this a little bit, the brief for Arne Slot would be getting in the top 4 and seeing anything. But it's interesting that Trent's talked about prizes and being elite. Arne Slot has talked about prizes and being elite. Yeah, that's their mindset. But let's see how it all bears out. But those are probably the big headlines for you, ladies and gents, as it were, on Tuesday, the 1st of October. Arne Slot is up with a player, we don't know who it will be, at 3 p.m. Training, Nunez and Robbo are back. That's the good news. The bad news, Diogo Jota is not in training. He has a minor foot injury. Federico Chiesa, we don't know about him at all, but he is not in training at all. So naturally, there will be questions about those. And funnily enough, there's a few now tweeting about, say, it's a foot injury they picked up at Molineux. There is suggestions he has an outside chance, Jota, of making this game, but not expected. And he has had a scan, which has shown nothing serious at the same time. So, yeah, we'll see what Arne Slot says about Diogo Jota. We'll see what Arne Slot says about Federico Chiesa. But it's interesting, all of a sudden, those 6 forward options may only be 4. But I do not know that for definite. We'll have to wait and see what the manager says. Which probably the final one. I'll give you a few things that I think ahead of Bologna and the post-conference press, a little bit of spoiler if you're hearing this before. I do suspect that tomorrow night even, that you will see a bit of rotation. I really do. I think Quansah might well come in to give Konate a bit of a rest for obvious reasons. Curtis Jones, did well. You do wonder about Szoboszlai, don't you? And, rotation, even one of the other two, rest a few. Nunez, I would be surprised if he's not in now, especially with Jota looking likely to miss this one. Anything else? We will have to see. I won't give you every single bit of my thoughts. That would just be completely incorrect, wouldn't it? But it's all about the build-up to Bologna. It's all about the boss, both of them. The one with the E Street Band, the big, handsome, beautiful, sexy Dutch bastard that is leading us at the moment. And there you go. So you don't get this many musical references off Hendrick, do you? Eh? Living it up. Living La Vida Loca on Tuesday, the 1st of October. And on Tuesday, the 1st of October, ladies and gents, enjoy your day wherever you are. That was the Daily Red. Anfield Index.